The biggest issue surrounding Love and Marriage Huntsville right now is not confusion, and it's important to make that distinction from the very beginning. Confusion implies that viewers simply don't understand what's happening, that they missed something, or that the information was too complicated to follow. That's not the case here. Viewers understand exactly what's happening, and that's why the frustration is growing. The real issue is consistency, or more accurately, the lack of it. When a television show returns in July, viewers automatically expect a certain rhythm. Weekly episodes are not a special request or an unreasonable demand. They are the standard. That is how television has always worked, especially for reality TV. Consistency builds routine. Routine builds loyalty, and loyalty is what keeps a show alive year after year. When that consistency disappears, trust begins to erode, and that is exactly what we are seeing happen in real time with this series. When Love and Marriage Huntsville returned in mid-July, it set a very clear expectation, whether the network acknowledged it or not. July rolls into August, August turns into September, and by the time December arrives, viewers should reasonably expect a full season worth of content. Not perfection, not non-stop drama, but a complete body of work that tells a coherent story. Instead, what viewers received were scattered episodes, unexplained gaps, long stretches of silence, and social media behavior that acted as though nothing was wrong. There was no clear communication, no transparency, and no acknowledgement of the growing frustration. That disconnect between what viewers expect and what they are receiving is where the real problem lies. By the time the holiday special aired on December 13th, many fans were already on edge, and that special only intensified the questions. Holiday specials traditionally signal the end of a season. They are celebratory, reflective, and meant to wrap things up, not interrupt an already broken flow. Airing a holiday special in the middle of missing episodes felt out of place and confusing, not because viewers didn't understand what a holiday special is, but because it didn't fit into the timeline logically. It felt like filler, something added to occupy space rather than move the story forward. It didn't resolve any ongoing issues, didn't introduce meaningful new developments, and didn't offer closure. Instead, it highlighted how little progress had been made over several months. As fans began paying closer attention, another issue became impossible to ignore. The episode numbers simply did not add up. Fan pages continued posting clips as if a new episode was always right around the corner. Episode numbers were being referenced that didn't match the calendar or the pacing of the show. By December, people were hearing references to episode 13, which immediately raised red flags. If the show returned in July and aired weekly, even with a few breaks, the episode count should be much higher. This isn't speculation or personal opinion, it's basic math. A weekly show airing consistently from July through December would naturally result in well over 20 episodes. The fact that viewers were still stuck around 13 episodes by the end of the year made it clear that something wasn't right. Even calling it 13 episodes feels generous when you consider that the holiday special didn't truly advance the storyline. It didn't push narratives forward, deepen relationships, or create meaningful tension. It existed almost outside of the season itself, which only reinforced the feeling that the show was struggling to maintain structure. The inconsistency became even more noticeable when fans reflected on the September break, which marked a turning point in how the season felt. That pause came suddenly, without a clear explanation, and left viewers confused and disengaged. They were told the show would return in a month, but when people questioned the gap, the response felt dismissive, almost as if viewers were imagining the problem rather than reacting to a very real disruption. Now, months later, the silence surrounding these gaps feels louder than ever. On December 20th, fans were told the show would return on December 27th, which raised yet another question. Why was there no episode that night? It wasn't Christmas yet. It wasn't New Year's yet. There was no obvious reason for another skipped week. One missed episode can usually be understood. Life happens, production schedules shift, but when skipped weeks become the norm instead of the exception, and when those skips come without explanation, frustration is inevitable. At that point, it no longer feels accidental, it feels intentional. This is where rumors about more breaks and fewer episodes start to feel believable, not because fans want to believe them, but because the patterns support them. More breaks lead to less momentum, and momentum is everything for a reality television show. We are at the end of the year, and season 10 was supposed to feel like a milestone. 10 seasons is an achievement, especially in reality TV. It should feel celebratory, complete, and impactful. Instead, the season feels unfinished, like a rough draft rather than a final product. 13 episodes since July is not a full season by any standard. It's a partial run, and viewers can feel that difference. Looking back at last year only makes the contrast more glaring. Last season aired consistently. Holidays did not disrupt the schedule. Thanksgiving came and went. Christmas came and went. Episodes still aired. The show returned quickly in January and maintained momentum. Viewers stayed engaged because the routine stayed intact. So naturally, people began asking the obvious question: what changed? The answer isn't simple, but it is noticeable. The cast changed, the energy changed, the content changed. Melody Sherry Rogers is no longer part of the show, and that absence is being felt in more ways than one. For many seasons, Melanie was at the center of the show's narrative structure. Whether viewers supported her or criticized her, she was a driving force. Her presence created tension, conversation, and continuity. Even cast members who weren't sharing much of their own lives still had something to discuss because her name, her actions, and her relationships drove storylines. Now, without that central figure, the show feels thinner. There's less conflict to build around, fewer emotional stakes, and less cohesion overall. This is not about blaming one person for the show's struggles. It's about recognizing patterns. When content is strong, episodes roll out consistently. When content is weak or stretched thin, delays happen. Fans are very aware of this, and they're no longer quiet about it. The comment sections tell the real story. Viewers are counting breaks the same way students count days off from school. Labor Day, Election Week, Thanksgiving, Christmas, winter break. Someone even pointed out that kids in school don't get this many breaks, and college students certainly don't. That observation wasn't meant as a joke. It was criticism. If this show is truly one of the network's top performers, it should be treated like one. Top shows don't disappear for weeks at a time without explanation. Top shows don't limp through the end of the year with barely a dozen episodes. The online reaction reflects a deep sense of disappointment. Pinned comments, sarcastic replies, and fans saying things like "just wrap it up" are becoming more common. These aren't comments from people who want the show to fail. They're coming from viewers who have been invested for years and feel let down. There's also growing confusion about missing episodes. Were they filmed and cut? Were they never planned? Were storylines abandoned? No one is saying anything, and that silence only fuels speculation. When there are no answers, people fill in the gaps themselves, and those conclusions are rarely optimistic. The holiday special, being facilitated by Carlos himself, only added to the questions. It felt separate from the regular flow of the show, almost like a standalone project rather than part of the season. That separation made fans wonder why it was necessary and what it signaled about the state of the series. All of these factors combined lead to one overarching feeling. The show is slowly fading, not officially canceled, not announced as ending, just quietly reduced. Fewer episodes, longer breaks, less urgency. That is often how shows are phased out without drawing attention to it. Fans are not wrong to notice this shift. They're not wrong to ask questions. They're not wrong to feel uneasy. When a show returns in July, viewers make a commitment. They schedule their Saturdays, they follow the storylines, they invest emotionally. When that routine is broken repeatedly, trust breaks along with it. And once that trust is gone, it's incredibly difficult to rebuild. This isn't about negativity or hate. It's about honesty. The numbers don't add up. The schedule isn't consistent. The communication isn't clear. Right now, Love and Marriage Huntsville doesn't feel stable. It feels uncertain, and uncertainty is one of the fastest ways to lose an audience. Viewers are paying attention, and they're no longer willing to pretend that everything is fine when it clearly isn't. Something is missing, and that absence shows not only in the episode count, but in the overall energy of the show. When viewers repeatedly point out the same issues week after week, it stops being background noise and starts reflecting a genuine shift in audience sentiment. Each new break chips away at excitement. People stop rushing to check schedules. They stop planning their weekends around the show. Anticipation turns into hesitation, and hesitation turns into disengagement. That is never a good sign for a long-running series.